sense.
This interview with Lorenzo Vicente is being recorded on November the 10th, 2006 at the Radisson Hotel in Branson, Missouri by the Branson Veterans Task Force. It is part of the Veterans History Project of the Library of Congress. The interviewer and operating the camera is Nick Weinsaft. Mr. Vicente, would you please state your full name?
Lorenzo Garcia Vicente.
And what is the date and place where you were born?
I was born in Manila, Philippines on February 23rd, 1939.
And what is your current address?
It's 1965 Buckingham Drive, Fairfield, California. Zip code 94533.
And what were you doing before you entered the military service?
Actually, I was in the third year of my college, almost taking up the mechanical engineering in Mapua Institute of Technology in Manila. And my prospect for employment at the time looks dim. So I decided to send in an application for the U.S. Navy, and luckily they acknowledged and sent me a notice to take the written exam, which fortunately I passed. After that, 2 months later, I took the physical exam and passed that too, and swore in on September 5th, 1959.
September 5th, did you say?
Yes.
1959. And where did you go after you were sworn in?
They shipped us to San Diego on put us all on the transport, which first time for the Filipinos, and many of us got seasick on the way, and landed in Treasure Island, and then they put us on a train to San Diego and start our boot camp training. We graduated sometime January, because there was a lull between the holidays, and there's no what do you call it? They stopped training between Christmas and New Year.
Right.
And after graduation, I went to a Steward Class A school, and then another 2 months later, I was on my way to Newport, Rhode Island in 1960 for a Filipino that was used to a hot weather. I got to Rhode Island and it's snowing, and you can see a big change.
That was, I take it, the first time you'd ever seen snow, probably.
First time, and I actually tasted snow and see what the big production about snow is, and I said, just like shaved ice.
Yeah.
And luckily, 3 days later, my ship, the USS Davis, went to the Mediterranean for a 6 months cruise. So I escaped the winter season.
What was the name of the ship again?
USS Davis, DD-937.
And what type of ship was that?
A destroyer.
Destroyer, okay. And after you were assigned to that ship, you went out back into warm weather?
No, I actually spent 13 years in the New England area, and I hated every winter after that. And in 1964, I finally got tired of being seasick, and I volunteered for submarine duty. I didn't go to submarine school. I was sent from the destroyer straight to the submarine, USS Half Dig, as
And that was in 1964?
1964. Half big is the SS351, and they call it the OJT, which is on the job training.
Half beak?
Half beak.
Like beak of a bird?
B-E-A-K.
Okay.
I spent 2 years and a half beak. Went to shore duty back in Newport, Rhode Island in 1966 to 1968.
Anything particularly memorable that you remember during that 2 years that you were on the half beak?
Yes, but I can't talk about it.
Okay. Into the classified area?
In the classified area.
Okay.
They still consider it classified.
I'm not trying to get you to talk
Yeah.
about anything that you feel is still classified. That.
Well, that's where I got in trouble before. But but while in the half beak, I earned my dolphins in half beak, and got qualified in the submarines, which is a big load off when you're brand new in the submarines and you're trying to learn the whole ship.
Yeah.
You have 6 months to do it. Getting your dolphin is one of the biggest accomplishments in my Navy life. And we didn't do anything particular except for those weekly operations and going to the shipyard for 6 months for repair in Philadelphia Naval Shipyard. And then after that, we went on our patrol, so to speak. And then when we returned to New London, I got transferred to shore duty in Newport, Rhode Island.
And how long were you on shore duty?
2 years. I was assigned to bachelor's officers' quarters as a steward. Nothing exciting happened there. Just doing the
Just
job.
more cold weather.
More cold weather for 2 years, and then 1968, I got my transfer orders to the USS Sirago, based in Norfolk, Virginia.
USS
Sirago, S-I-R-A-G-O.
Okay.
In 1968, I think 1969, when the what's that boat that got lost in the Azores? Anyway, we lost a boat off the Azores, and we were assigned to help look for locate the submarine. But being a diesel boat, we can only go as far as the continental shelf, because we can't dive too deep anyway. 400 feet is our maximum diving range. So we just try to float around out there, pigging, trying to detect something. But as we found out, the boat was at up Azores Island and too far away from us. We did that for about 3 weeks, and then we got sent back to Norfolk and for R&R. Let me see, Sirago. Oh, something happened in the Sirago that I don't think too many submariners experienced. We were coming back from San Juan, Puerto Rico, on a training called springboard training. On our way back, almost down to Florida, we met a storm, quite big, and we were listing 35 degrees port and starboard. And at one time, we listed 35 degrees to starboard. Before we were able to go back and the upright, we got hit by another big wave, and the boat actually go down to about 80 degrees.
Huh.
Because our chronometer in the in control room was pegged at 80. The bubble on the inclinometer is pegged
Right.
at 80. And me and the chip of the boat was actually standing on the bulkhead on the wall of the sink in the cruise mess. And you can imagine what a mess we had there. Everything on the boat that's loose was on the starboard side. And to make matters worse, with the water that went inside the boat down to the pump room, it shorted all electrical functions, AC, DC, the motors for the hydraulics quit. The engines and the engine room shut down their engine, and then we found out we can't restart the engine. We were ahead 3 days to get back to Norfolk when we did that, and we sat dead in the water for about 4 days until they can at least fix one engine to get us back to Norfolk. We were late a few days, and they almost sent out a search party for us. But we managed to get one engine back and get back to Norfolk. And 1970, I think 1972, they finally put our commission due to that incident. They didn't want to spend a lot of money, I guess. And from there, 1971, I got transferred to the Thomas Edison, where I made 5 patrols in the Mediterranean Sea. We used to fly in and out of Rota, Spain, and that's where we picked up the boat and dropped it off to the other crew.
Yeah, you had 2 crews on that.
Yes.
I know, a blue and a gold crew.
Yes.
And which crew were you?
I was on the blue crew then.
Okay. And what were your duties while you were on the Edison?
I was a commissary man cook on the Edison.
Commissary cook, did you say? Or
Commissary man.
Commissary man.
Commissary man, and it's same as cook.
Okay.
I was the leading commissary man on the ship.
So what kind of things did you
I
prepare
ordered-
for the crew?
I ordered stores, prepare the watch stations, do the books, and do the menus. We usually had a three-week cycle menu that we use, and I try to order the stores according to the menu. And well, they say that submarines serve the best food in the Navy, which I agree.
I've heard that on a number of occasions.
Yes.
The only ship that I've heard is even better than the submarines are the supply ships that go out to supply the fleet.
Well, yes, I can agree with that. Yeah, with all the supplies
I've
they
had
carry.
a number
yes,
of interviews
yes.
from those people, and
Yeah.
of course, what happens is that somehow things get lost before they distribute them.
Oh, well, we don't lose anything. It's just I try to order the ones that I think will please the crew. Like we serve steak at least 3 times a week, roast beef, pork chops, and other good menu that I think will go good. Once in a while, I try to serve them things that like liver and onions. They hate liver and onions.
Yeah,
yeah.
I bet so.
And or what's that? They call retarded cabbage. The Brussels sprouts. They hate Brussels sprouts too.
Yeah, and I would think that would be
Yeah.
particularly
So
damaging in the
I
summer.
throw it in there just to keep him on their toes. But we call him over the hump, which when we get to the halfway patrol, we'll be on the downhill side. But then we have a big dinner at the time, usually prime rib roast and all the trimmings that goes with it. The captain usually brings out a box of cigars to distribute to the crew. And we have the casino night, and about 2 weeks before we pull in, they play cards, and then the commissary division makes pizza to serve the crew that's out there.
Uh-huh.
And then about 3 days before we pull in, we have a captain's night. It's where the officers try to. We usually have the officers cook on captain's night.
I didn't know that.
With our supervision, of course, but they do very good.
Is that a normal thing
It's
on
just
submarines,
ship to
or
ship.
that was
No,
particularly a tradition for the Edison?
Just the Edison that Simon was there. I don't know if they carried that on after I left.
Uh-huh. I've never heard of that before,
Oh.
so that's why.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, you're giving me a different aspect than I've ever had.
Oh, okay.
Because I've never had anybody who
Yeah.
actually, was sort of the commissary chief and cook. And so this is all new information to me. I've never heard of a captain's night where the officers were cooking. If you wonder what I'm actually doing, I'm shorthanded. I usually have someone, and was expecting this morning, who takes notes, or
Okay.
they do it and take notes, but I'm having to take the notes at the same time that I'm interviewing. And the purpose of the notes, that when this goes on the website in the Library of Congress, they will take information out of my notes, and that will be in there for a couple paragraphs worth, so that when somebody goes searching for you, they can get a brief idea.
I see. Yeah.
It might be, and this has happened, where the press
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
somehow is looking for a particular direction or angle, and they'll search, and then they might later come to you and say, we want you to do another interview on this aspect.
In 1972, after our patrol, we were flying out the next day, and lo and behold, Bob Hope flew in Rota, Spain, and we were told to gather around at some field that they put up a stage for him. And I remember Vida Blue, the Oakland A's pitcher, was there, and Jane Kennedy. She wasn't too popular, but my wife ran into. They were showing that portion of the USO trip on the History Channel once, and my wife and I were happens to be watching it. And when they were fanning out the camera, they zeroed in on me, and my wife said, "That's you, that's you." So she quickly recorded that portion, and she had the pleasure of showing it to the grandchildren, and said, "You know who that is?" He said, "That's your grandpa."
That would be a unique
1972.
experience.
Yes, it is, and that's the highlight of my my tour on the Edison, until we took her across from the East Coast to Mare Island for yard period, and we stayed in Mare Island for about two and a half years, because from '73 to end of '75, and then from Mare Island we changed home port to Hawaii, Honolulu, Hawaii.
And you changed to Honolulu, Hawaii about what year?
'76.
76.
This is after we went back and forth to Florida to test the missile tubes and things that needed to be done on the test the missiles and all of that. And then one time we were in Florida, the turbine generator, I think it's a turbine generator, broke down, and we went to Charleston, South Carolina for a quick fix-up. Come to find out, the problem was bigger than the tender can handle. So they towed us to the shipyard, put us in the dry dock, and we wound up staying there for 6 months. And all our wives and relatives are back in Vallejo, wondering how long we're going to be in South Carolina. But we can help staying there too long, because without the PG we can go anywhere. So we finally got fixed and came back. We actually went through the Panama Canal. I went through the Panama Canal 3 times and never seen it.
You were down cooking, I take it?
Cooking, yes, and the CEO, I don't know, for some reason wouldn't allow us to go topside and to look around. He wants a neat topside, nothing cluttering and no onlookers. So I didn't see Panama Canal for 3 tours, and finally about 6-7 years ago, my wife suggested that we do a cruise. So I asked her if she wants to see the Panama Canal, because I said, you know, I went through there 3 times and never seen it. So this is my chance. So he said, why not? So I finally saw Panama Canal 6-7 years ago.
Now, getting back to your cooking on the sub, what size was your galley, approximately?
About 15 by 20 foot, which is considerable bigger than the galley in the diesel submarine. And the diesel submarine, the galley is only about 4 foot by no more than 8 foot. We have two small oven, 2 small hot grill, one small deep fat fryer, and that's it. And one mixing machine. Whereas on the Edison, it's like comparing Ford to a Cadillac. You get more space, more modern equipment, and a lot of room to work on.
So that was sort of a big come up when you
Yes,
get that size of galley.
Yeah, and what I like about Edison is you can take a shower every day with this unlimited water supply. Oxygen is not a problem because we manufacture our own oxygen.
Right.
And power.
Now you manufacture that oxygen from the seawater, isn't that where it comes from?
Yes. We have 2 oxygen generators aboard.
Uh-huh.
And the CO2 goes back to the AMR1, machinery room 1, to be cleaned, scrubbed and all of that, whatever. And then the oxygen is pumped back in the boat.
Uh-huh.
And the bad air is pumped out to sea. So it's all done automatically.
So if everything's working right, you virtually have unlimited oxygen.
Yes.
Oxygen has no limitation on it.
No, but compared to the diesel boat, we can only stay submerged for no more than from 24 to about 48 hours, and you're stretching it when you're done more than 48 hours. Because the oxygen is getting too low.
Yeah.
And you can even light a cigarette even if you want to.
I take it you start feeling the effects of that low oxygen physically.
Yes, and if on one occasion we actually had to lay out we call it CO2 canister. It's white powder that we put on a sheet, and it sucks in CO2 and then pumps out, converts that to oxygen, which is good for about 15 minutes on one can. And that saved our bacon quite a bit. Besides the corpsman bleeding out some oxygen from the oxygen tank that we have strategically placed around the boat.
Going back to the galley on Edison, was there any unique equipment that you had that would have only pertained to, let's say, a submarine?
No, it's just bigger.
Just bigger.
Bigger than what I used to use in a diesel submarine.
Uh-huh.
The ovens are bigger. The hot plates are bigger, you know, where you cook eggs and all of that. And in fact, we had 4 big ovens. So, and my baker loves that. And we have a dishwashing machine. The working area, working space is quite bigger because it's all made of stainless steel. And the only bad thing is the trash disposal unit is right next to the galley. So it gets messy when they have to load the trash disposal unit, because sometimes the garbage leaks from. We have one of these compactor room on the end of the at the end of the mess hall, where we have a metal can around 8 inches round. We close the bottom, load that up, and compact everything that we have in there, and then place about 2 garbage weights on top to help it sink once we put it out there. And with holes around the can, so all the liquid that comes out there just leaks like a sieve, and it's quite a mess. And the corpsman it's always on our back to make sure that we clean up after each operation, so we can keep the galley and the mess hall on a tip-top shape.
Mm-hmm. During your tour on medicine, was there anything particularly that you remember that was notable?
One time when we're in patrol, somebody got sick. I think he's got an appendicitis, and the captain determined that he had to be offloaded. So he picked a secluded spot. I don't know where we were, and at midnight, a helicopter came up and picked up the guy and took him off the ship. And that's the only time that we break our operational patrol on up there is if it's an extreme emergency. Otherwise, we stay submerged for 2 months. And then the rest of the patrol is just routine, boring, actually, except for when we have drills, missile drills, fire drill, flooding. Almost, I think almost once a day we have a drill. The EXO loves that.
Why do you say they love that?
Oh, they did. They just, I think it's all for our own good that we do the drills. Because in case the actual emergency comes up, we can save the ship, we can save our shipmates. And
do they do some of those drills switching personnel around so that people are doing different duties than?
No, not really. We learn every aspects of the submarine duty. But once you're done and get your dolphin, they know that if emergency comes up, we can replace or help somebody from other divisions to run their place. And like me, as a cook, I'm trained to help the torpedoman. I can actually fire the torpedoes if they needed to, help load the torpedo tubes when they need it. We learn how to operate every machinery in the boat, every nooks and crannies, switches, knobs, bulbs, you name it. We can put our fingers on it and operate it. The only thing that I didn't learn before I was a citizen is I didn't go in any radio room or the sonar room, because that's off limits to non-citizens. So, when did you get your citizenship? 1970. Coming back from the Mediterranean on the USS Sirago. 3 days before we pulled into Norfolk, the captain told me that when we get to Norfolk, there'll be a Navy car waiting for me on the pier. It'll take me to Richmond, Virginia, where a judge will swear me in as a citizen. And no fanfare, just went up there and raised my hands and said, I'll abide by the U.S. Code of Laws and all of that. And the only thing, I knew they got something hidden in under their palms there, because 3 months later, I got an order for the Thomas Edison.
So you got your citizenship right
yeah.
before you went on the top.
Why, yes, because they don't let any non-citizens aboard nuclear power ship. Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's a joke. I told him, if I knew you're gonna do this, I would have turned down my citizenship. But I'm happy. I'm glad I did it.
Uh-huh. Now, what was your rate on at the time you were on the Edison?
I became first class, E6 at the time. And then that's where I stayed until I retired. From the Edison 1976, I got transferred to Treasure Island in San Francisco for 2 years shore duty.
And what type of shore duty did you do there?
I was actually assigned to a Navy medical center. I am the one and only non-corpsman in the whole building. My job is to mail PO, they call it mail PO. I pick up and deliver mail to the post office. I drove an ambulance. I became a master at arms, which being a first class, I was given one section of the one section for what section. I actually assigned the nurses and waves and the corpsmen on what duties they have when our section is duty.
Uh-huh.
And I did that for 2 years, and nothing very exciting.
Yeah.
And then from there, 1978, I got transferred to the USS Plunger.
That's sort of a unique name, Plunger.
Plunger,
Where
yes.
did that come from?
It's
do you know?
it's a type of shark.
A plunger is a type of shark.
Yes.
Okay.
Which just looks plunger.
Yeah, let me see if I can get that on camera if you have a
Oh.
patch there.
That one, but there's no fish on it. But I know plunger is it's a type of shark.
Uh-huh. I noticed before that name, and I thought that was sort of intriguing because plunger isn't what necessarily
Yes,
you think
yeah.
of as a shark.
Yes. I spent a year in the plunger. I made my first and last Western Pacific tour. We left, let's see. Well, we left on the 6 months Western Pacific tour and made one of our, another one of those trips that I can talk about.
One of those that's still classified.
Yes, it is. And after the run, we pulled into Guam after 2 months underwater operation.
Uh-huh.
And we stayed in Guam for 3 weeks for rest and relaxation, so they call. And then from there, we just spent the rest of the patrol going from one country to another. In fact, we pulled into Subic Bay in the Philippines.
So you went back
for
home.
11 days, so we went back home.
And I take it you still had a lot of relatives?
Everybody's still there. I'm the only one out here.
Uh-huh.
So every about 4 or 5 years, I I make it a point to go visit. And my brothers and sisters are getting on that age that they probably won't be lasting too long. So my wife said, you better go see them while they're still alive. And luckily, I was there 2 years ago, in 1994. Last time I was there is on 2001. I was coming back on September 11, 2001. And I was watching TV and I saw CNN, all these things that's happening at the World Trade. And I immediately called my wife in California. I asked her if she knows what's going on. She said, what's that? She said, turn TV on and tune in on CNN. And she did, and she said, oh my God, it's all this. So what's gonna happen to your trip back? I was flying back that day. And I called the airport and they said that all flights are canceled because the SFO, San Francisco International Airport, closed down the airport, so no flights in and out.
Right.
And I stayed in the Philippines for another week before I can fly home. And that's an experience.
Yeah, I think that's one of those things everybody remembers, just
Yes,
exactly what
yes.
they were doing at the time they first found out about it. After the plunger, where did you go?
When after the plunger, I retired off the plunger in 1979, March 5th, 1979. And in 1980, Mare Island Naval Shipyard hired me as a shipwright, which is a marine carpenter. From a cook to carpentry, that's a big leap.
Yeah, that is.
And our job is
Which job did you like better?
Oh, I like the civilian job better because I learned a new trade, and cooking is a piece of cake. I don't, but learning how to be a carpenter is a big challenge. And I didn't know anything, the difference between a hammer and a plane, and a 2x4 from a 2x6. And I learned that in Mare Island. And one of our main job is to prepare the dry dock to take in submarine that will go in the dry dock for repair. And we actually have to cut the blocks and make it on the same shape as the submarine.
Basically
hull.
build a cradle for the...
cradle, right. Yeah, and then when the ship is in the dry dock, we build scaffolding around so the other trades can do their job. I didn't know I was afraid of heights until I climbed a 60-foot tower that we built. That's quite a drop.
Yeah, I guess, you don't have too many heights on a submarine, so
No,
completely the opposite.
When the Edison was in the dry dock, we're observing the yard workers, and we're looking at them and said, "Boy, when I get out of the Navy, I'd like to do that job," because they virtually just sit there and do nothing as far as we're concerned, drinking coffee and shooting the breeze. So actually, when one night we had the duty section, I was called up at midnight, and it told me that I'll be a fire watch at the bottom of the dry dock to help out the welders. I went down there with my fire extinguisher. I waited for the welder for about half hour. He came on the site, he looked around, he said, I don't have the right tools to do that. So he left. 2 hours later he came back, he made a couple of spots to do what he needed to do. He said, oh, time for break, I'll see you in about 15 minutes. Okay, he said, I got me a cup of coffee, came back and waiting for him for about an hour and a half. And he said, nah, we'll finish this tomorrow. And for the it's supposed to be 8-hour job that he did, he didn't stay there for about 5 minutes. I said, I like to do that job.
And when you started working in similar jobs, was that
when I got hired in Shop 64, which is the carpentry division, on the first 2 weeks I was gung-ho. I do everything, and I take a break on the desired prescribed time, 15 minutes, and then go back to work. The guys that with me that's been there before, he said, hey Larry, slow down, you make us look bad.
In other words,
I learned.
They had sort of arranged
Yes.
their own
So
pace and method.
Yes, I slowed down and said, okay, I can do that. And for 13 years, I
13
did
years,
13 years.
you slowed down.
Yeah, I slowed down for 13 years. And he said, this is good, I can do this. Until they closed the shipyard on us in 1996. In 94, I turned 55, so I said, well, it's time to go. So I left the shipyard and been retired since then.
And have you gone to a lot of submariner reunions?
I went on one reunion with my first boat, the Hatbig. I went on, next year I'll be going on my third reunion with the Sirago. This is my third reunion for the Edison, and one reunion with the Plunger. So I've been around quite a bit, and I like the reunions. I like to see my old shipmates and reminisce and see what's new, what they've been doing. And a lot of them changed, weight-wise.
Yeah, that happens to some of us, not to others. I have a feeling Joe over here probably weighed more back then, but not my case.
Yeah, me too. They told me that I didn't change it. I think I did. It was I think it was 140 pounds when I left the service, and I'm now about 170, 175.
Huh? Okay.
It's still, they said, hey, you haven't changed.
You picked up about the same number of pounds I have.
Yeah. But I'm comfortable.
That's what I tell everybody too.
Besides a couple of the health problems I had, I'm happy.
Is there anything that I haven't asked you, that we haven't touched upon, that you'd like to get into this interview?
The only thing that I like that happened to me is when I met my second wife.
Okay.
We've been married 30 years now, since June. And my first marriage lasted 9 years. I think mainly because of our schedule, 3 months in, 3 months out. And I don't think she likes that. When I came back from the patrol, I tried to take over the running of the household, which she's been doing for 3 months when I was out. And so that didn't last long, and he said, okay, The separations was amicable, and we parted friends until I was actually single for 13 days.
13 days.
13 days. The same day I got my final divorce. 5 minutes later, we were down in the recorder's office getting permit for marriage permit, and then we got married 13 days later.
How did you meet your wife? Second wife.
Second wife, would you believe it? We met in a bar.
Okay, no, I believe that.
I was sitting on a table, and she was sitting on the next to me, and she happened to drop her lipstick. I picked it up and gave it to her. A couple of minutes later, lipstick fell off again. I said, I think she's trying to pick me up. And I asked her for a dance, and it started from there. 2 years later, we got married in 1976.
Uh-huh. And you were married for quite a long time?
30 years. And last June, it was our 30th.
Uh-huh.
And I surprised her with a cruise to Mazatlan, from Long Beach to Catalina Island to Mexico. And in between, I have arranged for a renewal of our vows to be done by the captain of the ship. And the day before, I asked her to see, maybe you want to have your fingernails done, and then after that, get your hair done. And she was kind of looking at me, what's going on here? And I didn't say anything and then the next day was the, they call it captain's dinner, where the captain meets all the crew, all the guests. And I took her down to one of the bars. They closed the bar. They set it up with a little rug, two things for the flowers and a podium for the captain. And she said, "Is this what I think it is?" And sure enough, he said, "Yeah." And so and she cried her eyes out. First time I see her cry.
You have
we have a very nice ceremony, along with certificate and even framed. They've been framed.
Do you have any children?
Not my own. She had 3 children from her deceased husband, and unfortunately, when she had her third child, they did a hysterectomy on her. So I really don't mind anyway. I said, your children is my children. And we don't use the word step on our family. They call me Pop, Dad. They're my kids until now. And actually, one time they were visiting a grandmother from Santa Rosa, and she almost started saying negative things about me, and the kids stopped her and said, "Don't say anything bad about that man. We love him, but he's our dad, and that's how it's going to be." And from then on, I got in the good side of grandmother.
You still do cooking at home?
99.99%. She still works. She has her own business, which her office is our house. She's a legal transcriber. So the least I could do is cook and clean the house and all of that. Well, she's gonna earn the bacon. I can help.
Right. And logic would tell me you're pretty good at it. From the standpoint, I don't think you'd survive too long in the close quarters of a submarine, 2 months at a time underwater, if the food you were not serving was pretty good.
They'll kill me.
Right. That would be dangerous to me if you weren't a good cook.
But I can honestly say that I can compare my cooks to the what we call target, which is surface ships. We call it targets.
Right.
Since from submariners' point of view, there's only two types of ships: submarines and targets.
Huh. It says it all, doesn't it?
So, in my cooks, I can pair them against anybody, and I'm sure they'll come out a winner.
I would think so. I mean, if you're on a carrier and you're not such a good cook, lots of places to hide.
I've seen carrier food, and they just put theirs on a big tray, and the servers will just get one scoop and slap it right on a tray. I said, that'll never happen in submarines. And we actually use China on board. We don't use those metal trays. China, cup, and silverware.
Then I'll bet you even put the food on fairly attractively.
Yes, we try to, and we serve family style. We put it on a big bowl, pass it out there, and then if it's empty, comes back in the galley, and I fill it up.
Well, I want to thank you for your service to your country.
You're welcome.
And I also want to thank you for giving us a little different perspective on submarine duty. Well, you're the first one for me. I haven't had anyone, and I've always been intrigued from the standpoint of you've got to somehow have a very good galley operation, I would think, on a submarine, or you literally could face the Cane Mutiny.
Oh, I tried to avoid that.
Do you have anything else you'd like to add to the interview?
I don't think I can add any more. I think I've said more than enough.
Well, Larry, I thank you again for your interview, and we will end it at this point.